Dear Diary, they have various names for it, calling it the Old Guard, the Deep State, or the Obstructionists. Members of the administration who operate outside the elected representatives of the people, who remain static as leadership changes, yet have clawed themselves into the apparatus of the state and unduly influence it beyond their position. People like Chief Justice Hawker, who can be said to be responsible for the legality of the Bludish oppression, or Justice Garachi, who sabotaged Alfonso's policies at every turn, misguided as they were, out of sheer reactionary spite. Yet, in my cabinet, I have a socialist in Walda, an anti-corruption crusader in Morgna, and a workers' rights advocate in Benivol, who I believe I can work with to realize my vision. It comes at nobody's great surprise that members of the political circus and arena are often out for their own agendas and not for the good of the country. We have a variety of issues that we need to deal with, in no particular order. The legacy parts of the constitution, the military control over at least parts of the police force. There were some discussions in the comments if the gendarmes were actually a sort of special police force under the military, and there's a regular police under the Ministry of Interior, or if everything is under the military. We have the oppression of Bludish minorities in Bergia. That is a problem. We've got women's rights, or the lack thereof, as a problem. We have the police being somewhat unchecked, especially when it comes to corruption and potentially, kickbacks and other things happening. The organized crime seems to be entrenched, and the police, despite having multiple powers, not seemingly being able to do very much about it. We are non-aligned in foreign policy, and that is no longer viable. And we have a trade deficit, which is something we need to work against. That we need to fix our economy, and while we can try to obviously fix things domestically, a large part may have to be trade with our new alignment towards the east, and hopefully that'll include some opportunities for additional trade and economic reform in general. Now, it's time. I believe we have looked at enough things. It's time for a briefing on the current political situation. So I'll be calling my cabinet together, I guess, in the Maroon Palace in the office of the president. And we have also a briefing on the current economic situation. Let's start with the economy, actually, because that is the more pressing issue in the White Room in the Maroon Palace. So we've got Simon Hull, who is, I believe, my minister. Yeah, he's my Minister of Economy. So he is a free market free market proponent, but he's having quite a good reputation. So we'll have to see what we can do. We've got Gus Manger. He was a businessman, I think. Yeah. So he's the Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development, and obviously. He has been doing some good trade deals, and we will see if we can get him on board with our policies. And Lilias Graf, she is, I believe, the conservative expert on urban development and police relations. Yeah, so she's a conservative member of my cabinet. And she is the Minister of Interior. So we've got Interior, we've got Rural Development and Economics. So they were about to arrive at the White Room for our scheduled economy meeting. This was the room in the Maroon Palace where all important meetings were held. Two assistants arrived first, carrying a heavy projector. They stood with it by the door, waiting for the ministers to enter. From the hallway, I heard Graf's voice. She was using the patient, almost motherly tone she often took in heated arguments. Gus, do you really think that such an economically advanced area is more in need of investment than Angland? Okay, so let's see what Gus is up against. Angland, let's have a look at my journal. That's what it's for. Angland was the the relatively poor fishing region up in the north, if I'm not mistaken. Lilias, my interior minister, strode in. She was clad in shades of brown and beige, the only spot of color, a bright yellow Dasnurist cross on her necklace. That's one of the religions. Gus followed close behind. Don't be an idiot, Lilias. What about the unemployment crisis the greater Holsord and Gelsland regions are going through? These areas are our economic heartland. Okay. So we've got Gelsland, which is the technology hub, and we've got Holsord, which is the historic center. He's not wrong. So she's making effectively the argument that we have to invest more into the fringe regions, whereas he says, look, we have an economic crisis on our hands. We need to make sure that the main drivers of our economy are going forward. We will see what we can choose here. He curled his hands into fists. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development's temper hadn't changed since his days in the Alfonso administration, but neither had his reputation for getting things done. His far-reaching network of connections was unlike any other. Simon Hall quickly stepped between the two ministers without looking at either of them. He cleared his throat. Good morning, Mr. President. So I can ask what the debate was about, or just pretend that it didn't happen and greet everybody on the good morning. I think I am keen to know that, but this is probably not helping bringing it back up again. So he's clearly trying to steer away from a debate that is unfruitful, because none of these two is going to move off of their positions. So we're going to go and support his approach at moderation here. And good morning, everyone. I am very well and motivated, Mr. Rayne. It seems our ministers are feeling the same. Yeah, that's a very diplomatic way of putting that. So let's see what we're doing. Now I can pick that up again. What was the discussion about? Or just as expected, how is it going? Or we can just sideline the whole story and begin with the overall. What did we have? Yeah, we had, what issues did we have in the central? The tech hub didn't actually have massive issues, at least not from the data that I've seen. And neither did Holsord, really, at least not from my notes here. So we'll have to see what's going on. Do we want to go back to this particular discussion, or do we just want to begin? I think I want to begin with the overall situation, because otherwise these two are clearly having an axe to grind with each other, and that can easily just redirect the whole agenda away into their particular pet peeves. So great to hear that. Let's begin. All right. He pulls a silk handkerchief out of his pocket and briefly wiped his glasses. My staff and I have comprehensively analyzed every aspect of... he was interrupted by a groan from one of the assistants by the door, both of whom were now visibly struggling to hold up the heavy projector. Shall we have them put that down somewhere, maybe? Oh, you can put that there. Yeah, that would be a good idea. He pointed below the painting of President Sol. The assistants placed the projector next to the table and installed a white screen on the wall. Leave now. I mean, thank you, and please leave now. Okay. He is not taking any prisoners. Now, I do have to be a little careful with him, because he is he's obviously not going to be happy with the direction that my economic decisions are potentially going to go. But we will see what. I don't want to hear what all of them have to say eventually. We will see what's coming. The assistants left the cabinet room. I was reminded that Simon had never quite had the way with people, but his facility with numbers had made him the most sought-after economic specialist in Swordland. Well, look, we're talking economy, right? We're talking numbers. I mean, it's about the people in the end, but we have to understand how we can get out of the situation and what can be done first. He started looking for his slides. He always carried documentation around with him, as I would expect from an economist. I'm not going to yawn. That'd be impolite, so we shall wait for that. Lilias leaned to the table and spoke. Simon, what happened to the new police station construction in Estord? Where's Estord? Estord is over here. Okay, so we're in that region. Nargis has crime problems. Yeah, okay, so she's talking about the criminal situation potentially. While going through his briefcase, he paused for a moment to answer. It got stalled due to a government property boundary issue. I have been meaning to look into it. I can take a look at that one. Estord needs all the security help it can get. I think she's not wrong there, because yes, that was a a crime hotspot, and she's interior, so I think that is actually more her area anyway. Sure, more time for me to spend on analysis. Good. Let's make sure that the people who are most suited for the job are actually getting the tasks that they need. His eyes glittered when he finally found the slides he was looking for. There have been some developments about the Swordish Rayne losing further value today. We have been trying to stabilize it with the central bank. Okay, so we have our currency dipping. Now that can have a few reasons. We do have a trade deficit, so that certainly plays into it. It could be that we have inflation problems, and it could also be that the central bank has been money printing in order to support the government debt. So that could be a variety of reasons. Well, let's see what the central bank, the leader of the central bank was one Mrs. Anyok, who was not particularly in favor of me, I believe, from the news. Let's see what the central bank is coming up to. Recession of 51 put enormous pressure on the economy, resulting in the collapse of the value of our currency. The entire situation was a significant cause of concern for our administration, especially that we have a trade deficit, because that means we do need to, and we're presumably not running the world's reserve currency, so we do need to actually, it makes our imports more expensive comparatively, and but at the same time, it'll make our exports cheaper. So, a collapse of the value, however, is not something we necessarily want. Let's see what it's got. Since economics is your forte, Mr. Rayne, it is possible that you might already be aware of the data. I can still explain the current economic situation in better detail. Yes, please do so. Oh yeah, now we're getting to the meat of it. Yes. So, I'm assuming I can ask all of these. So yeah, because I've got demographics, I've got the country overview, but I have not seen actual data. So I think the codex entry also didn't have particularly much about this. No, this is really more the historical thing. Okay, so what's the GDP and debt situation? Let's have a look. Current GDP is 310 billion Swordish Rayne, and the national debt is at 427 billion. Okay, so we have what is that? 130%-ish? We have a debt to GDP ratio that is definitely not in a good shape. It's still hard to fathom that we lost nearly 150 billion in wealth. The past 3 years were tough. Yeah, definitely. So debt to GDP ratio, however, if the currency devalues, should get somewhat better, but because debt's going to be nominal, but still, yeah, that's not a good. That doesn't leave us with an awful lot of wiggle room for economic policies. So, because if we do, we're obviously going to try and turn the economy around, but that requires government intervention. And if we're having a debt to GDP ratio like that, we're presumably running a large budget deficit, which means that there's also a crushing load on interest payments. Oh dear. Okay, let's see what we can do. What's the unemployment and inflation rate? Let's see what we have. Unemployment has skyrocketed and is now at a staggering 16%, and the inflation's at 10%. Okay, so we have high inflation, and we have a significant unemployment. So it's not wage inflation, which means it's that just really just leaves money printing, right? So we're having 10% is high, and obviously that doesn't make the situation any better. But it means that with inflation as high, with unemployment as high as that, we've effectively got stagflation as an economic situation. We've got a stagnant economy, a high national debt, and a high inflation, which is not wage driven. So it's either supply driven or it's from central bank money. So it's the money supply. It's either that stuff gets more expensive because it's scarce, or it's the money supply that gets significantly increased, which we'll see if we can figure that out. Unemployment is increasing crime and drug use. Yes, we need to get people off the streets. The inflation isn't helping our average citizen either. No, especially because wage growth is not going to keep track with that. That's why I've said, I believe I've noted that somewhere, potentially. Root causes. This note thing does not always want to play ball. Okay, I have to do this with a keyboard. Yeah, we've got corruption and lack of investment, but I think we can add a few more root causes now. Okay, we've got a debt to GDP ratio of 138%. These are very critical numbers that I need to remember. We have an unemployment of 16% unemployment, which doesn't count things like underemployment. And we've got 10% inflation running. So these are the root causes, right? So everything else, the crime, not all of it. So the certain organized crime obviously is not necessarily correlated to unemployment. It's more petty crime. But yeah, crime and drug use, obviously, we need to get people off the streets. Inflation isn't helping. All right. What's the status of the recession? Okay, let's see how they define that. So economy has been in a recession for about -6%, -6% GDP, presumably, in the past year. So if I can get into my notes again. Hello, game. Oh, there. So we've got -6% GDP past year. And we've got average GDP is so per capita from 15,000 to 10,000. Which year are we now? Do I have that somewhere? So that's so we've lost 1/3 per capita GDP since 51. All right. What year are we in? Can I find that? I forgot. I should probably take note of that. It'd be nice if there was a a note of any of this. 1953? Was it 1953? So anyway, in the past few years, however, we've lost a third of our per capita GDP per capita. So we have been in recession for a while now, by the looks of it. So we effectively got we're in a full-blown recession. We've got wealth destruction, 16% unemployment, a 10% inflation, and we've got a debt to GDP ratio of almost 140%. I'd be curious to know what our interest payments are in terms of the government budget. But I would assume in a situation like this that the interest payments are reasonably high with that amount. This administration's success depends on our ability to stop the recession. The sooner we can reach GDP growth, the better. Yes, absolutely, I agree. I will even, like, looking at the numbers now, I will even almost argue that political change in direction politically will have to take a back seat in front of that, because this is not sustainable, because we might otherwise end up in a government default or similar things. So we will see if we can find ways to deal with that. Ideally, maybe we can combine the two things. So ideally, what I'm thinking, and we'll see what options I'm going to get. But ideally, we can combine that with a political orientation out of neutrality eastwards. And at the same time, we can start with, let's say, foreign investment from the East. That could, if we can package it that way, that we got the economic situation under control due to our orientation eastwards, towards the Eastwards Alliance, then that opens the doors for an eventual migration of the economic system, and towards also a migration of the political system to align with our neighbors in the East. So let's see how that's going to go. I have all the information needed. Let's move on to the economic strategy. Okay, let's see what options we have right now. He scattered the paper stuck in front of him in an orderly manner and took a final look at his notes before clearing his throat. As you can see, the situation is alarming, but not everything is negative. The extensive privatization program of Alfonso and key foreign direct investments left us a large budget surplus, which we can use to stabilize the crisis. Okay, a budget. Okay, so we've actually got a budget surplus due to the sell-off of state property to oligarchs. And foreign direct investment, okay, depending on where that comes from, is surprising that should not usually go into the government's budget directly, but I would have assumed that they would be investing in businesses, right? In factories, in production, and anything like that. So that's actually surprising that we have a budget surplus. Now the question. So that means we actually have some dry powder. That's actually positive. We do have some dry powder to do something about the whole situation. That's gonna be tricky, however, because we'll have to be careful about inflation. So if we do the okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I'm just thinking out loud. If we do the common socialist idea of basically government handouts, then we're going to get the inflation to skyrocket, because depending on where this inflation comes from, but effectively people will have additional money in their hands. They'll spend it on limited goods and services, which then drives prices up. So we don't probably want to do that, but we will see what options we're going to get here. Primary subject we need to settle on is what general path we will take in our term. Solonomics-based nationalization happened in the 30s, and Alfonso's privatization began during the end of the 40s. What will our administration focus on? Okay. One of our main promises was to promote a planned economy to stop a recession. To be frank, I still don't think that was a good idea. I know you don't. I know you disagree with me on this. But look, all you get out of privatization clearly hasn't worked. And yes, you can go and blame obstructionism about this. But in the end, all you've achieved is that you now have a group of potentially corrupt oligarchs who have been buying up state enterprises at the cheap and have concentrated their wealth. And I believe we've seen that somewhere, that there was a high wealth concentration among the rich, who have obviously profited immensely by purchasing state businesses at a, I would assume, very, very low price. So privatization isn't the answer here. Selling of government, selling of state property clearly hasn't worked. So we'll see what we can do. Ideally, we're definitely going back to planned economy, but we'll see what kind of planned actions we can actually take. We shouldn't go back to Solonomics. It is the reason for the recession. Okay. Well, let's see what we can do. Self-sufficiency will help us in tough times. I agree with that. We did have the energy law, which was limiting foreign ownership of critical energy production. To it, I think it was in the Constitution even. So I agree that self-sufficiency is a goal. But with an economic situation like that, I think trade and investment is going to be something that we need to. Ideally, what I would like to do, and again, I'm totally getting ahead of myself here. What I would love to do is to strategically promote certain businesses or support industries that we can use for foreign trade, because that's going to give us hard assets, especially if we have a rapidly depreciating currency, and it's going to at least temporarily going to improve the situation if we can get a positive trade deficit and we can trade our way out of this. That would be ideal. But let's see. We're still missing way too much context to make these decisions. Let's see what we do. Simon ignored the statement. Okay. So I'm also don't agree with absolutes like this, that we shouldn't go back to Solonomics. Maybe there's no single single method or system that is 100% good or 100% bad. There are good and bad ideas in either of them. So we're going to have to find the good ones and move on with these. So let's continue. All right, what do we got? Economic systems without regulation are bound to fail. That is true. However, not at the core of the problem, in my opinion. What are the consequences of a free market? Well, I've seen that. The more of the economy we control, the better we can manage the recession. That is true to an extent, although I dislike the idea of direct economic control. So I don't necessarily want to. I want to have state-owned enterprises in key areas. So in strategic key areas, just to prevent all the mess that comes with the privatization of these. At the same time, I don't want everything to be state-owned, because then you're completely losing the innovation process and you're disenfranchising a lot. However, what we want to eventually get to is to a system of where the working class owns the means of production. And this isn't necessarily mean that they own that through the state. I have some other ideas, but I have no idea if the game lets me do these kind of things. What are the downside of the planned economy? Well, lack of flexibility for once, because we're stifling innovation completely. So which one are we going to do? More of the economy we control, the better we can manage the recession. or economic systems without regulation are bound to fail. I'm almost tempted to go towards number 1. I don't know if I get to ask all of them or if I can only make one statement here. Let me think about this for a minute. All right, so 2 and 4 are out because I'm reasonably clear on what these are, and that will just confirm to me what the game is thinking about this. Economic systems without regulation are bound to fail. This sounds more like a continuation of the capitalist market system. And I am looking towards a reversion to the planned economy with specific characteristics. So I think we'll have to, I don't like the wording of any of these particularly, but I think I'm going to go with number 3, that we will have to retake control at least over parts of the economy to manage the recession, because clearly the privatization hasn't worked out. And we will have to then see in the future how we can get the working class to gather the means of production. What I'm actually thinking, and I have no idea if the game makes this kind of thing possible, but what I'm thinking would be to obviously to have critical businesses state-controlled, and at the same time give state incentives for certain private businesses to attempt for things like new markets or to compete with each other, and at the same time give the workers shares in the businesses, such that however that's implemented, such that they will have a direct interest in actually giving success to the state-owned businesses. So instead of doing something like a quota system, I would actually give them a share in the business, to which obviously, if it's let's say it's a publicly traded business of some, well, it wouldn't be publicly traded, but let's say the share has certain benefits, right? So let's say it is a non-publicly traded share that pays out a dividend, depending on how well the business does. Like that sort of, and obviously can be sold in a regulated market. That sort of thing would be but has no actual voting power. So it's not like a publicly traded business because it's state controlled, but still the workers would have the benefit of having a stake in it. Anyway, so I'm going to go with number 3. The more of the economy we control, the better we can manage the recession. Am I being too careful here? Because I have no idea. People have told me that things are impactful, so I'd rather think it through twice and click it once. All right, the more of the economy we control, the better we can manage the recession. That is a fair argument to be made. But if we reduce the freedom of people in the marketplace in general, it would hinder our innovation and dynamism in the supply and demand equation. Yes, I agree with you. That said, I think there's a way to, well, first of all, like I just laid out, you can have both to a degree. I don't want to control everything through the state, but the strategically important businesses need to be state-owned. At the same time, we can allow for private competition in other areas, in other fields. And there's all manner of ways how we can go about this. But let's see where we get from this. Say what you will about Alfonso, without his attempts, our current coffers would be empty and the recession would be a depression. I don't think so necessarily. Obviously, state-controlled businesses can be ineffective if combined with lack of incentive, lack of ownership of the working class, and with high levels of corruption. At the same time, just selling off. This is trading long-term wealth for short-term budget. You're selling off you're selling off state-owned services and property to ruthless businessmen, which means that well, yes, this would have reduced the amount of funding that we currently have available to us, but at the same time, in the long run, all this leads to is reduced services, higher cost for the people, and everything that comes with it. One way to be remembered positively is to cause a recession and leave a few bills behind. I like her. Oh, that is glorious. Yeah, I like her already. I wasn't so sure because she seemed to be a bit of a hard-nosed conservative, but I absolutely like her already. The structural problems of Solonomics were going to lead to a recession according to the predictions at the time anyway. Yes, I'm not saying we're going back to the old system necessarily, because nothing's really worked. Either way, even if we pick one of the doctrines, we retain the option to make economic choices on a case-by-case basis. Yes, thank you, Simon. That is exactly what I was trying to say in the last, probably waffling on the last 10 minutes. That is, however, not recommended in my point of view. The last thing we need is a chaotic economic plan. No, we do need to have an economic plan, and but I think I get what he's trying to say. So we will overall be going for a planned economy, but so that's the general. So the general economic direction is a planned economy wherein the state takes over essential services domestically and key strategic businesses that are pillars of the economy in order to prevent fraud, corruption, and the pillaging of the workers by the capitalists. At the same time, we can, within that framework, then make specific decisions on what counts as a strategic business, or which area we would say this is. So let's say, for example, the area of innovation, right? So if we're saying just hypothetically, our primary export is agricultural goods, steel, mining products, commodities in general. So these would be these are the pillars of the economy. And that would mean that these are in state hands. We get a large part of income, let's say, from tourism. Doesn't mean that tourism needs to be state organized. Tourism would be an area that, like, what's the downside? What would happen if we reduce competition there and make that state owned? Do we have any strategic impact from that? So like energy production needs to be state-owned. Transportation needs to be state-owned. Education system needs to be state-owned. Because privatizing these and making them compete with each other, generally, especially in a highly corrupt environment, only leads to reduced quality of services, which are essential for the stability of the society, and in higher cost for the people who pay for it, who are poor as they are. So no, we're not doing a chaotic economic plan. Let's see where we're going. Finally, something we can both agree on. Okay, so we'll see where we get. There's another important factor which has a direct impact on our economy: superpowers. Yes, as I have noted, we do need to fix the non-alignment, because non-alignment is a luxury we can no longer afford, especially if we are in a competing superpower system. Non-alignment, especially also with potentially aggressive neighbors, is not something is a luxury that we can no longer afford. So we do need the economic assistance, and we only get that at the cost of political alignment. And we're going to politically align east because that's the direction we want to go anyway. So that's it. We might have won the election, but I am still against aligning ourselves with the superpowers. I disagree with that. I think that is a luxury. That is a luxury we could afford if we had a thriving economy, if we were not strategically important for either of them, and if we had if we had a military strategic situation that would be easily to defend. So Switzerland can be neutral because it's in the mountain, all the mountains. The rich people have their stuff stored there, and there's really bugger all else in there that you wouldn't necessarily want to. It doesn't threaten anybody, right? But for other countries, that is a very, very, very different perspective, especially if we are at the front lines between two competing superpowers. We do have to take a side, because otherwise we will get rolled over, I believe. All right. Economically speaking, we aren't as tied to United Contana as we are to Arcasia, so a decision to align with the East is much more difficult to accomplish. Yeah, I know. And then nobody ever said it was going to be easy. We must be very cautious. There are schemes being devised about Swordland. That's what I was talking about. We cannot give in to their wants now or in the future. Otherwise, our country will turn into a pawn. Again, I disagree. We have to pick a side because we are in a major power confrontation. And if you don't end up picking a side, you become... well, you become a speed bump at best, and you become occupied at worst. So politics and ideology is all good until the first shot is fired. So we will see how that goes. I want you to reconsider your promise to align with United Contana. Okay, let's see. how extreme are we going? I like her, but of course she is also reasonably important because she is one of my main supporters, and she brought a large conservative support. So the conservatives are obviously not going to be happy with my Eastern alignment. Okay, so I can say I made a promise to the people. I won't back down. I won't let them control Swordland. I'm not planning to let them control Swordland as a... we obviously have to play this smart, right? Just because we want to align with United Contana in a ideological, potentially militarily and economic sense doesn't necessarily mean that they dictate our policies. We are still an independent country in the end of the day. There is a revolution that was started by United Contana, a permanent revolution, and Swordland must be part of it. Okay, so that's obviously the hardline communist line. I think that would probably alienate her quite a bit. So we have to be a little careful here with how we're going about this. So I can deflect and I say, well, look, I promised it to the people and I'm not going back on my promises. I can sort of try to downplay it and say that I won't let them control Swordland. Or I can kind of agree with her and try to back off, which I'm not planning to. So I think, given how important she is, and actually that I do like, I do like her spirit. Yeah, I think I won't let them control Swordland. Definitely. I mean, they will ask for something in return, right? If you're joining an alliance, obviously you will have to become, to a degree, part of the alliance's general direction. And if we are the beachhead on the continent, then I'm assuming that they will ask for things like military access, potentially bases maybe, and obviously a change in the political system that is aligned with their values, which makes sense, right? That's why we're doing the whole thing. At the same time, we're not giving away control of the country. So I'm not going to go all the way. Yeah, this is too radical. I mean, this is what I want, but saying that to her face, I think, isn't going to get us there. So either I can say, well, it's a promise, is a promise, is a promise, or I can try to mollify. I think I'm going to try and mollify her just because she is the most influential supporter of my candidacy and brought the conservative support. So if I push her too hard, we'll have to find a way to keep her on board, because otherwise we are losing the. I don't actually know. Where do I see this? Is that? Do I get a? I don't get a breakdown inside the part. I know that there's a reformist wing, and I would assume that there's a conservative wing as well, in some way. Obviously, there's these people, but there's also the independents. Actually, yeah, that was someone. I'm not sure if I looked at that last time. Just a quick aside. So this is Bernard Circas, poet, novelist, short story writer, and communist politician. So he has been in the Red Youth, so together with me, survived the Purge of Seoul, and has been actually in United Kontana over in the east. His works have been banned in Swordland, and he returned following the departure of Seoul. So he's been back relatively recently. Organized strikes against the government's failure to include amnesty laws and start to become a popular figure in politics, ran as independent, the first communist to be elected in the Grand National Assembly. So he's the head of the independents. So I definitely want to get these guys on my side. Right now we have a 20, what is this, 70, 120, 130. So we're actually, sorry, that's 110, 120. So we have a 10 seat, majority in the assembly. But if we are losing the conservatives, I don't know what the breakdown is in our party, but we were to lose the conservative wing, probably towards the nationals, I would assume, then yeah, so we do have to be a little careful. So I'm going to go with this. I won't let United Kontana control Swordland. I hope we can show and not tell. When the time comes, I hope you will make the right decision. Okay. Now, I don't like being threatened. It's all fun and games, and I like the spirit, but I don't like being threatened. So I'm going to have to leave a note here. What are we going to call that? Where are we now? People who threaten me. Leah's graph. Not happy about East orientation. Yeah, I'm going to keep note of these things. I will not forget. Anton Rayne will remember this. I'm going to assume that she meant for my political good, but all right, let's get back. We should attract more foreign direct investment. Mr. President, we saved the country from a full-on depression in 52 and 53 by signing lucrative trade deals with nations such as Risia, Lesbia, and Kinal. Kinal? Where's Kinal? Strategic country predominantly on the Zenal Peninsula in northern Zina. Where is that? Kinal. Not up there. Not seeing it. Can't remember seeing that anywhere on the continent. Okay, but apparently we're trading with them, so that's important. All right, we have lucrative trade deals with Risia, Lesbia, and these people. So Lesbia makes sense, although the Democratic Republic, Kingdom of Risia is a monarchy. These people, they do have a minority of bloods, as far as I remember here. And obviously, as our neighbor, it makes sense to trade with them. And they are neutral towards us. but also, yeah, they're part of the Arcasian Treaty Organization. So I would assume, how about Rizia? Is that part of the ATO? No, actually. So yeah, Lesbia is going to be problematic. How about Agnolia? Is that part? No, not part of it. And Valen? Just checking our direct neighbors? No, but yeah, Lesbia is part of the organization here, which is going to potentially be problematic. So let's see. All right, he cleared his throat again. Simon having objections here. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Minister Rishi will be in charge of informing you on those types of foreign policy decisions. We must first decide on our internal economic plan. Yes, I agree. Rishi wasn't that the professor that I studied economics under? If I'm not David Rishi, he wasn't he? So he's the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Trade. Okay, so that is good to know. Yeah, he taught at the Dare University. Was that where I went? I'm not entirely certain. I think that was him. Okay, internal economic plan. So let's go back to the national map. So what are we going to do? He put forward a legal document outlining the possibilities with both economic doctrines listed. The cabinet members looked at me. Oh, so we're deciding this right now, right here and now. No deliberation. Okay. So, okay. So, okay, so we can thank Sol and his plan economy for the boom. It clearly shows the success of the system. No, it did not, because clearly the system did not work. Let's finish what Alfonso started with the capitalist free market reforms. No, that didn't work either. Would a planned economy focus bring us stronger allies? Yes, in the East, presumably. Okay, so I can actually ask some questions here. What's on our long-term economic schedule? That's probably the most interesting part. So let's see what they've got to say. Picking a construction company for construction of what? Trade relations, yes. Actually, let me see what I have on my notes. Tax reform and welfare privatization or nationalization initiatives would be some of them. Okay, so welfare is an issue, I think. And again, I cannot scroll in my notes. Yeah, notes are broken, so I can't scroll in them. From memory, we did have some welfare issues, and I think welfare included things like free healthcare, if I'm not mistaken, but I would have to check my... Oh, now I can scroll. Okay. Did I take a note about this? Was education issues in Bergia, we know that, and poverty. Well, I would assume... No, I didn't actually take note of anything here. So, well, let's see. Okay, so picking a construction company. I wonder if maybe we have infrastructure. Oh, that's a good one. Infrastructure projects, yes. So build out of infrastructure is always helpful in terms of economic turndown, in times of economic turndown. So we've got some trouble with infrastructure. I think it was highways or railways or something that were deficient, and that this would be good projects this would be a useful injection of government funds into the economy. I'm not too keen of direct handouts due to the high inflation. But that depends a little bit where the inflation comes from. So if it's if we have sufficient supply and the inflation comes out of money printing, then it would be detrimental. If we are actually sorry, if we have supply shortages and the inflation came out of money printing, then it would be detrimental because it would throw more money at a limited amount of supply. Whereas if we are actually, if it's more of a well, you know, going to food and basic needs, and flows directly back into the local economy, which has a domestic demand problem. In that case, direct government support would work. So we will see what we're going to be doing. Anyway, getting sidetracked. Let's see what comes. We must choose wisely and remember that the free market economy in all forms is the future of the world. Okay, so Gus, I had Gus pinned as a... Okay, he is a businessman. Let's see. I had him pinned as somebody who was more on the side of local produced agricultural goods, adjusting import-export taxes, generate economic value. Okay, so he's worked with Anyok, Avon, and Hall so he is firmly on the side of free market. So I've got two free market people over here. I need to take a note of that. Economics. So we've got Manger. Let's capitalize his name. Come on. What? Okay. There we go. That was weird. And he is a free market capitalist. Must choose wisely and remember. I disagree with you here. I wouldn't be so sure. Yeah. I can't get a read on Lilias. She's clearly smart. She's very sharp. She is known to be conservative, and she's clearly nationalist to a degree, but she seems to be not economically not necessarily in favor of. Okay, so maybe she is more on a neutral nationalistic planned economy side. Maybe that's where the conservative leans to, simply because that used to be the system for the longest time. Could be. All right. Would a planned economy focus bring us stronger allies? Let's see what we got. Diplomatically, it would make United Contana look at our country in a more positive light. They are proponents of the planned economy. I agree. And I think it's also, they are doing, I believe, they are doing very well economically. Can I actually see that? So yeah, they're locked in a fierce ideological battle, but what is, has a very strong economy and average civil rights record with few political freedoms. So I'm thinking of picking up they're very resource rich and uses it as means to spread their influence. It tends to export natural resources more than any nation in the world. In exchange, sets up military bases in strategic countries. I think we can use their ideological conflict for our benefit and get them. So if we are aligning ourselves with them to a degree, then we can end up with economic support, potentially trading for I've just read it there, for bases. And that's okay, because we are going into a military alliance for a potential military confrontation and for securing ourselves against aggressive neighboring states, not just against the alliance. But I think I agree with that. Whatever that's worth, the influence Arcasia has on the world economy is extensive. Our economic strategy should be based on internal reasoning, though. Yes, I agree. Let's move on to the... I don't think we have to thank Sol and his planned economy. I think let's move on to the conclusion. Let's see where we get. What are my final thoughts? All right. Okay, let's see. Critical institutions must remain in state control. That's what I said earlier. We must be fully responsible in delivering services. I agree. We should look at opportunities like privatization to create financial resources. No. A market economy doesn't require as much guidance and should help us. Nope. It's hard to fully agree to disagree on these options. Nope. You already know what we're going to do. Nope. This is exactly what I'm thinking. So critical institutions must remain in state control. We must be fully responsible in delivering services. And I would go a bit further than that even. And I would argue that not just critical institutions, but also critical businesses and resources need to be in state control. And we must be fully responsible in delivering the services to the people internally. All right. A market economy doesn't mean privatization of every single institution, but either way, you make the choices. Yes, I do. So what will our general economic plan promote? Promote a planned economy as we promised. Yes, that is what we're going to do. Not sure if we made the right decision here. I am, though. I know you disagree, but we are going further. So we are looking to, he's looking worried. So Gus is looking worried. Okay. I know you don't like that. I know you would prefer me to go full on privatization capitalist. But that is not what we're going to be doing here, because I'm looking to also, I'm not just looking to fix the economy, my friend. You might not be realizing my plans here, but I am looking to fix the broken political system that we're dealing with. And that is going to be a significantly larger change. So fixing the economy is the first step towards that. Now that there's clarity on which direction we are heading, I will work on a good plan accordingly. Thank you. I'm surprised, because Hull is not a proponent of this at all, but he's still willing to work with us. Well, let's see what the outcome is, but he's still willing to work with us. And I think that sort of ideological neutrality is great to know. So I'm going to take note of that as well. Hull works on economy despite this. Oh, am I at the end of my notes here? Yeah, despite. Yeah, I think I have reached the end of the. Oh, that's it. That's all the notes I can take. Oh, bugger. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave that out then. I'm just going to have to remember this. So my notes are effectively full and cannot be used any further. That is mildly irritating. I'll just have to refer to my notes externally and I'll have to edit that out. All right. At our next gathering, we will talk about the upcoming infrastructure investment. Infrastructure, or was that the construction company that he was going on about? Because there is an infrastructure investment plan. I am in agreement of an infrastructure investment plan. So now that the economic direction was decided upon, the ministers dispersed for lunch at the Maroon Palace. And okay, whew, have we completed a turn? Sheesh, I sure hope so. So we've got lots of things to check out, lots of reports, I don't see a day or month or any kind of counter, so I'm not entirely certain. We'll explore all this in the next episode. I'm not entirely certain what happened, or if this was a turn already, or if this was a decision only, because there should still be there's still the briefing on the political situation. So that's still something that's there. So this wasn't an exclusive choice. But I think all in all, this didn't go poorly. I would have expected a lot more pushback from and a lot more threats, to be honest, from the members of that group. So despite them disagreeing with me here on the ideological grounds, they're still willing to put their expertise into it and see where we can get at. So that sort of open-mindedness is much welcome. Anyway, okay, this was fun. Politics next. I did the fun bit first. Then comes the political bit next time. We'll see what comes.